So it's been a challenging year for SMEs in Nigeria and South Africa, with a number of macroeconomic headwinds pressuring their bottom lines. In South Africa, for instance, deadly floods, riots have compounded existing hurdles for SMEs already facing operating pressures from power cuts caused by load shedding from Eskom. In Nigeria, the 300% hike in diesel costs have piled pressure on SMEs, whose overhead costs are already allocating anywhere from 30 to 50% just to power alone. As 2022 draws to a close, what kind of survival strategies do SMEs in Africa's two largest economies need to adopt in the final 3 months of the year to position themselves for the new year? Joining us to answer this question, she's usually on virtually from Johannesburg, but she's here live. Vumile Msweli, award-winning career coach, Hesed Consulting CEO. Vumile, good morning.
Good morning.
Great to see you in the
Live
flesh.
from Lagos.
Exactly. You're very, very welcome. Good to have you. So yeah, look, how would you describe 2023 for businesses in South Africa where you are and other African climes?
So I think definitely Eskom has now just said stage 6 for South Africa for an unknown period of time. This has never happened before. So power is going to be a big challenge. It also means from a logistics perspective, South Africans are really going to have to slim down in how they in essence do business. I also think one of the very, very big factors is going to say, listen, how do we start going to markets outside of South Africa to ensure that sustainability? How we've done business is not going to suffice for us in the future.
And as far as survival, I want to talk a bit about jobs. South Africa and Nigeria have two of the highest unemployment rates on the continent. I think Namibia might be third or second, somewhere in the top three. But I think 33%, although I'll commend South Africa because their data is up to date as of the second quarter. Nigeria is about 2 years old. But what does this mean for jobs, though? If SMEs have to slim down, isn't that more pain for hiring, for youth, for example? What's your take there?
It's definitely, for youth, people under the age of 35 in South Africa, we're looking at 64% unemployment.
Wow.
So that's an even more staggering statistic. So what I think is going to be happening is one of two things. It's either a lot of people are going to start losing their jobs, or what might happen is we might have to substantially drop wages, which will create opportunities for younger people, but it means guys who've got more experience are going to have nowhere to go. So it's really a very, very challenging space to be in. But I also think we have to consider now is what we're seeing is a lot of SMEs are no longer even looking to South Africa to hire.
Right.
We've seen this phenomenon where all of a sudden people are hiring people in India because it's more affordable. Yeah. We're saying, actually, no, let me hire people in Kuala Lumpur because it's more affordable. So how we actually do wages is going to be very, very challenging. And of course, the history of South Africa. Our wage guys are always screaming, striking, saying we want more, but there simply isn't enough to go around.
So if you are one of these businesses and you're boardrooms and you're strategizing for the fourth quarter, what are they saying? Is it go lean, or what are the metrics that they're looking at to survive, basically?
It's definitely go lean. It's definitely re-looking at your products to say which of these are actually going to generate the highest amount of profit. We're seeing a lot of clients starting to slim down and say we don't need a lot of variety, but we do need profitability. What we're also seeing is there's starting to be a culture of collaborating to compete. So who used to be your competitor, all of a sudden you now have to think about, are they really my competitor? Is this someone I potentially could collaborate with in order to catapult my business a little bit further? And I think one of the biggest things also we're going to have to look at is organizations that are really focusing on corporate, those budgets are slimming down. So how then do you say, okay, I'm solely a B2B, but I might also start looking at B2C potentially?
Okay, now if you are if you're slimming down, that probably means that more roles get allocated to staff, right? What does that do to we've talked about so many things in the past. Work-life balance, for instance. Does that get drowned in the conversation if you're slimming down and allocating more roles to existing staff?
Of course, because you're going to be strapped for capacity, and all of a sudden, job security is going to become an issue. So the chances of you saying, "Listen, I'm not coping. I need some time off," your employer is now going to start saying, if you're not coping, can I get someone who potentially could do the job a little bit better? So I think the conversation around work-life balance is going to be a bit of a challenge, but I think a more interesting conversation that's actually going to come up for employees is to say, if I'm not going to get work-life balance, how do you compensate me for that? Can I get equity perhaps? Yeah. So I think those dynamics are now going to shift. If you really are bringing value, now's the perfect time to start having that equity conversation as an employee. As an employer, it's how do I start remunerating where I have to really stretch my rands and my nairas with my current resources.
Okay, we're always talking private sector every single time we have you on, but from the public side, what can the government of South Africa, government of Nigeria, how can they do more to, I guess, support these small businesses?
So I think the first thing is maybe take a page from, and I know people are always complaining when I say, let's take a look at what Israel is doing, right? They've got a booming tech sector, they've got a booming SME center. And the reason for that is they, in essence, are allowed to fail forward as opposed to being punished for failing. So I think that's something we could take a look at. The second thing is, as government, how are we giving collateral for our small businesses? How are we giving them support? How are we making sure that actually we're creating spaces where we can empower them? Also, as government, if you've got small businesses, your payment terms, you can't expect us to execute and then pay us 2 months later. How can we make that a smoother transition? And I also think internally, from a government perspective, we all know government can be very bureaucratic. Why are you not hiring small businesses to help you with some of your own challenges? So I'm going to challenge government to say, you want us to grow, but yet you don't want to hire us to do the job.
Gotcha.
I think let's go back to basics there.
Gotcha. Thanks for that. Okay, so we're coming up on the festive period, which is, for at least for Nigeria, for GDP, it does uptick there. Can there be some respite for sales and so on for this final quarter of the year for SMEs to get some kind of sales bump?
Well, looking at the retail sector in South Africa, it's been very, very shocking. So we noticed that usually we have Easter sales. These have been the worst in the history of South Africa. So I think in essence, what we're finding is South Africans currently don't have money. And I'm sure, and I'm never going to say, well, welcome to Africa. We all don't have money.
Exactly.
but I think that's really, really impacting how retail is looking. I don't anticipate that we're going to see that normal uptick of an excitement of Christmas as we've seen historically. Yes, there's going to be a little bit of reprieve, but it's not going to be at the levels that we've become accustomed to historically.
Is it too early to ask you to forecast the first quarter of 2023? Is that too early?
So it's spring in South Africa, and based on how things are going, I think there'll be a slight improvement from this year, from 2022, but not more than a few basis points, I don't think.
All right, wait a minute left. You have a new book?
Yes, I do.
Can you quickly tell us about your book?
So I'm here actually promoting my Career Accelerator Journal, and I'm all about career coaching and supporting people.
You are.
And it's going live in Nigeria, so that's one of the reasons I'm here, to really say, how can you coach yourself when you don't have access to a coach? And that's what the Career Accelerator Journal is all about.
Great stuff. Vumile, it's really great to see you in the flesh. Vumile Msweli, award-winning career coach, CEO, Hesed Consulting, is going to be an interesting year for SMEs South Africa and pretty much across the continent. Thank you so much.